I thought today we would start out with a little bit of rolling. Now, some of you may be very familiar with foam rolling if you go to fitness studios or gyms, or perhaps you have your own home gym and you really enjoy that. I thought today instead we would just look at how you could perform that same kind of action. How do we get hydration and pumping through the body to enhance your circulation with something you might have at home? Now, of course, this is a sports stick, but we have something similar to that in the form of a rolling pin. So you might need to go to your kitchen and grab yourself a rolling pin. Don't hit your husband with it. Save that for later. What you'll be doing instead is taking the rolling pin and imagining, if you would, that your muscles are very much like bread dough. And I might start down into my lower regions here, my lower leg, and I'm just going to apply a little bit of pressure in the areas around my lower leg. And what you might discover is some tender spots. Now, I don't want to try and brutalize the tissue. Really, what I am trying to achieve here is a bit of pressure against my flesh. And when I do that, there should be a little discoloration. The blood and other fluids are pushing away from where I'm applying pressure. And then, of course, when I release the pressure, you can see how the blood and fluid pools back into areas like that. So if I were to do this over and over, such as rolling, really what I'm doing is enhancing the circulation of my lower legs. If we can think about that for just a moment, my feet are the furthest part of my body from my heart. And the heart is what circulates blood through my entire body. But all the fluid down here in my feet, if I don't stay active, has a tendency to really pool up in my lower regions, making for maybe some swollen ankles, maybe even swollen knees. So what we want to try and do is enhance this circulation down there. And if we think about it, we look at the calf muscle, it's very heart-shaped. It has two halves, and it's kind of bulbous. And when it stretches or lengthens and shortens, it creates a pumping mechanism. So all the more reason to get out and move. But in the event that you can do something around the house, this is a very nice situation here. Just taking the rolling pin and rolling back and forth, creating a little bit of lower body CPR. And that's essentially what we want to have happen. Just a little bit of cuddling down into those areas. We can move up into the thighs themselves. And it's not that you have to search for the most tender spots, but you'll most likely find a few. And you don't have to hover over those places necessarily. You can just pass them by, or if they're too tender, go to the outer regions where they're not so tender. I can also begin standing up, taking it around my backside, rolling out the back, my lower back, buttocks, and so on. Don't let the grandkids catch you, because they'll take their phone out and take a picture of you, and the next thing you know, you're on Instagram like this. Not necessarily probably what's in your future. Now, I can do the same thing with my arm here and just roll it out all the way up to my shoulders, maybe even my midsection a little bit. It's just a simple little tool that actually stimulates the body and the nerve endings to get us prepared to exercise. Well, that's kind of nice. Okay, putting that aside, we've stimulated the nerve endings by rolling back and forth, and we've gotten some great circulation established now. Well, let's take that a little bit further. Let's do a little bit of brain training. This is a very simple way of awakening an area in the brain that's responsible for such things as accuracy, balance, coordination, posture. And we're talking about what we consider the old brain, the cerebellum, the area near the brainstem, just above it, in the back side of your head, where all those things, the ABCs, accuracy, balance, coordination, are housed. And what we can do is try to stimulate that, but it would be good to know which side of the cerebellum that we may want to focus our attention upon. Is it the left side or the right side? And a simple way of doing that is to challenge our coordination and our accuracy. And we can do that with what we call a rapid alternating pronation supination test, or RAPS for short. What you'll do is you'll take your hand, with one hand palm face up. The other one is going to come right on top of it, palm to palm. And that's kind of important. I'm not looking for your palm to be on your fingers or on your thumbs, but we're really going to try and maintain an accurate contact with palm to palm. The top hand will then lift up, rotate over, and the back of my hand will hit the center of that palm that's up. And I will continually lift and flip in as quick of a manner as I can and as accurately as I can. So in this case, I have my right hand doing the flipping with the left hand being the supporting hand. Let's do this for about 10 to 15 seconds. You do it along with me and just get a certain awareness of how is it that you do this. Are you being accurate with the hand landing on the palm, or is it all over the place? Are you getting tired? Do you feel less coordinated? Okay, here we go. In 3, 2, 1, begin. And rest. So that was about 10 seconds. What was that like? Did you find that your hand was going all over the place? Did you find that you were just flipping over without lifting up? Was it getting you a little frustrated? All great feedback. Let's do the same thing with the left hand on top of the right. Ready? In 3, 2, 1, begin. And rest. Compare the left from the right. Which one had less coordination, or was less accurate, or perhaps fatigued sooner than the other one? And when I say fatigued, it wasn't like you were breathing heavy necessarily and profusely sweating or anything. It was more like fatiguing where the arm was maybe feeling a little tired, you were slowing your rhythm down, the cadence was changing. All right, I am going to say that it was my right side that was flipping up and down that was a little bit more challenged in regards to accuracy and endurance. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to focus on that side. And I'm going to make the sign for infinity, or a figure 8 on its side. And I'm going to trace that with my hand to start out with. But the cerebellum doesn't like the same thing over and over, so I'm going to change it by making it smaller. Well, maybe I'll change directions. Follow along. Maybe I'll just use my thumb. Or maybe I'll use my whole arm and go faster. Change directions and go slower. The cerebellum likes novelty. I'm going to take it with my pinky finger leading the way. Now I'm going to do it with my thumb leading the way. And rest. So we only spent about 15, maybe 30 seconds doing a basic movement on the right side of my body that was complex, that changed ever so much every few seconds and made those movements more novel. Let's try this again. Same side that you were challenged with. 3, 2, 1, go. And rest. Did you notice that it got better? Now, of course, somebody will say, well, if I do it long enough, practice makes perfect. That could be. Doing a skill could improve it. However, what we did do was something that was quite different than flipping your hand up and down, just making this elliptical kind of movement. We can also do the same thing, if you'd like, with your foot. And you can make that sign for infinity, figure 8, using your foot, maybe tracing it with your heel, maybe just using your lower leg, changing direction. There's a whole bunch of ways. We could make it more complex over time and have both hand and foot start making the movement. And if you really want to get fancy, you can have one hand moving in one direction while the foot is moving in the opposite direction. Whew, that's a lot tougher. But these are great skills to bring into the brain for better brain health. Okay. Now we're standing now, so we might as well start to do a little bit of balance work. And this is going to be reminiscent of a roadside test. Because, don't you know, when a person gets pulled over for questionable driving skills and are asked to stand to the side of the street and perform certain movements, the officer is really checking to see if they have proper coordination. What is their accuracy like? How is their brain affected? And if it's impaired, they shouldn't get in that vehicle again. However, it was impaired. So what we're going to do is called tandem walking, where you have one foot in front of the other, heel to toe, heel to toe. And as you do this, it might be a good idea, if you're feeling like your balance is compromised, to simply be by a wall or maybe along a guardrail, a handrail, or anything. A kitchen counter may work. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to first start by just seeing what it's like to go heel to toe. What is the level of the tension in your body? Are you able to stay fairly relaxed when doing this? Now we can turn around and do the same thing on back, but I'm just going to walk back. Rude to turn my back to you. This time, let's do this. Let's take the eyes upward. So my head's going to stay level, but I'm going to take my eyes up away from where I'm traveling. And remember, be safe, have something nearby if you're feeling like your balance is being slightly compromised. Now, with my eyes up, I can't see my feet, obviously, which is often the direction that we'll take eyes when we're walking. How often do you see, as we get on in our years, people walking with their head down? What that does is it changes our posture and causes us to fall forward, which is going to prevent us from taking longer strides, which is going to shorten up the muscles that allow us to take longer strides. And the more we get restricted, the more likely we are going to fall over. Because if I'm so used to taking smaller steps, when that moment where I trip, I'm going to need to recorrect and reposition myself, and that's going to require those muscles opening. So, as simple as this may seem, doing this exercise with your head level and your eyes up may very well encourage better balance and encourage you to keep your head up while walking around, keeping your eyes up. Let's try this, though. Instead of just going upward, we're just going to take our gaze off to the right. My head's going to stay facing straight ahead, but I'm just going to be looking just off to my right side, maybe to the edge of the bridge of my nose. And what is the quality of your balance like then? Did your head stay facing forward? Let's do the same thing with the eyes going over to the left. And what we're trying to find out is there one direction with taking your eyes where you are more challenged? Let's, for the sake of argument, say that I was the most challenged taking my eyes left. Well, I could encourage that action a little bit more by simply staring straight ahead and then looking over to something on my left and holding my gaze there for a few seconds, and then resetting myself with my eyes forward and then looking over to the left and just holding for a few seconds, head still facing straight ahead. And I'm going to try and do that maybe 3 or 4 times. Thumb out here where I can see it, turn my eyes, fixate my gaze on it. All right. Now, if you notice that there was to the right, to the left, up or down, that you were most challenged by, that was the direction that we should see you practicing. Now, I'm going to do the same thing as I did before, take my eyes left, and just see what the quality of my balance is like. Did it improve just by practicing fixing my gaze over to the left? Simple little things, but to be honest, they're extremely potent. They're very powerful movements that we're feeding information into our brain. All right, the roadside test. Well, we can go one step further here, no pun intended, but with these tandem walks, we can take our hands out. We can also tilt the head slightly back, which is throwing off our vestibular system that helps us with balance, keeping our eyes up. And if we want to, we can just do a little finger to nose touch. Simple as can be. Not to say that you're preparing for getting pulled over on the highway in any way, but who knows? Maybe you'll be better prepared in the future. Okay. We're going to leave the chair out just in case I need something to hold on to. But better yet, where the chair is right now, I have this tape that is down on the floor, and it's going in all, 8 points of the compass. And what I'm going to encourage is you don't have to put tape on your floor, but imagine that you have something like this at home. And I'm going to be standing in the center here, and what I'm going to simply do is step forward with one foot and forward the other. And let's just do maybe about 3 or 4 on each leg. As I step forward, all my weight's going forward with me, so I have to stop and redirect my body to push me back to this position. Great. Now, let's see if you can step backwards. Much scarier because we don't know where we're going. Now, hopefully you have some clear space around you, and I'm just going to feel what it's like to bring my weight back, catch myself, and draw myself forward, back and forth like this. And this may come into play in the middle of the night when we lose our footing and we have to catch ourselves. This is all about fall prevention. So we did forward and backwards. Let's do lateral action, where I'm going to step over to my right and over to my left. And I got to stop myself here and pull back over. Just this side-to-side action is all I want to start to explore. I can start to go a little bit more extreme by reaching with my arms. Let's say I can reach over the head to each side. Now the weight of my upper body is really driving down into the muscles down my waist. I start to feel those turn on a little bit. Now I can reach in the same direction that I'm stepping, but I could try and break that up and reach in the opposite direction that I'm stepping. So when I go to my left, I may reach over to my right. When I go right, I reach left. All these movements are now awakening the muscles of my body to do something probably they haven't done in a little while. And the more they wake up, the more excited, my nervous system gets, the more blood flow I have, the better my circulation. So I've gone forward and backwards, laterally, left and right, but I also have a diagonal action. And so I'm going to step forward to maybe 2 o'clock on a clock face with my right leg, and to about 10 o'clock forward with my left leg. I'm going to step out at a diagonal and push back to center, and the same thing to the left. I can turn my body, or I can keep it facing straight ahead and just glide in a diagonal fashion. I'm not trying to break any record of reaching, but know that these little steps will turn on a little bit of muscle. Bigger steps turn on more. And when we're talking about the nervous system and how it controls your muscles, the longer the stride, the more the nerve endings wake up to tell the body what it needs to do. And I think that's why we see people that are exercising or staying less and less active, those that don't exercise, they start to walk around with smaller strides, smaller steps. And in essence, their world is shrinking around them. And we don't want you to shrink. We want you to sing and be as expansive as you can be. So it's not that we're asking you to try and go out as far as you can. It's just go beyond your normal borders, provided that you feel safe, challenged, and pain-free. So I only have 2 directions left. That would be back and to the side to about 4 o'clock on the clock face and 8 o'clock behind me on my left. I'm going to go over to here and push back, and over to here and push back. I could rotate with this movement as if I'm about to waltz with somebody. Or I can stay facing forward and just try and sink back. The ones where you're going backwards, I find, are probably the most challenging. Again, because we don't see where we're going, but also just the way our bodies are designed, that we don't walk backwards very often. We're designed to walk forward. So doing anything that we're not necessarily designed to do on a regular basis is always going to be a bit more awkward. There we have it. That is called the lunge matrix. A matrix of movements, forward and back, side to side, and some rotational components. In essence, you have just gotten your hips to experience flexing while extending on the other side, moving away from one side, moving toward another, rotating toward one side while rotating away from another. Therefore, the 57 muscles that connect and intersect across the center of your body have just been given this gift of opening and turning on and waking up. Hopefully that feels really good to you. I have with me this rubber band. And what I'd like to do with this band is hopefully you've got a band at home. Most people have some type of exercise band at home, whether it's really an easy, light resistance or a heavier resistance, that's your prerogative. Now, if you are in the garage and you happen to have an old inner tube from your bicycle just hanging around, that could serve a purpose too. We're just going to work on a little bit of band action. And the thing that I would like to do is I would like to use the band at the same time wake up the muscles that are deep within my body. And I can do that in a number of ways. We can first turn on, how about the abdominal wall, while using these in a pressing fashion. So I'm just going to hold on to both ends of the rubber band. I'm going to keep my feet not too close together, but close enough where I'm feeling like the rubber band is almost going to pull me backwards. And of course, I don't want it to pull me backwards, so I'm going to have to use the muscles that are on the front of my body to contract and keep me upright. If this feels like it is too precarious and a little bit too demanding, you can always have a slightly staggered stance so that back leg gives you a better brace or support. However, I'm just going to keep my feet parallel like so. And I'm just going to reach back and forth. As I press forward, that rubber band's going to increase the intensity and try and drive my body back. And so at the very end range where I am right now, these muscles are having to turn on quite a bit compared to where I'm here. I can go with an alternating fashion, pressing one arm out at a time, or I can do both at the same time. Your choice. However, if I were to just hold the bands in one hand, now the resistance is being pulled back only on one side, which is going to encourage my body to be pulled in that direction. Therefore, I have to fight the desire of that band to rotate me by using my muscles to prevent me from rotating. And that means all these muscles throughout my hips and my corset are really going to have to turn on. So doing a single arm press is going to excite these muscles in a much different way and to a certain degree a lot more intensely than if I were to do both arms at the same time, whether it's together or alternating. Okay, I have just done some pressing. Well, I could do the same action facing the opposite direction where I'm pulling. And I'm just pulling the band toward me. The trouble with this one, I find, is if I don't have the proper action between my shoulder blades to draw my shoulders back when pulling, then I see a lot of people keeping their shoulders rounded, and then the shoulders don't move, but it's really the elbows that are bending and pulling the arms in, causing this area up in the neck and shoulders to really get blocked up and restricted. So with this particular one, I definitely encourage more people to do an alternating pulling action. Or, of course, just having the band on one arm and pulling with one arm at a time. This frees up the ability of the body to rotate. And with that rotation, my shoulder gets drawn back in a much safer, easier way. When I have both hands pulling at the same time, there is no rotation in my midsection. It stays still, and therefore, in order to get the shoulders back, I really have to pay attention to where my shoulders go. That's just a couple of pulling and pressing options. I could also pretend I'm a baseball player perhaps, and I'm holding on to my baseball bat, and I'm coming across and hitting a home run every time. I can turn my hips and then turn the rib cage. I can have the rib cage and hips rotate at the same time. I can have my hips stay still and only rotate my torso. Whatever type of rotation you want to explore, just make sure that it feels, I would say, natural or nice, maybe a little challenged. What will often happen as we get older is that some of our bones will start to lose the density and will gain osteopenia, osteoporosis. And in that case, we want to watch out how much we're really rotating through our spinal column. So what you could do, if you're turning, I would encourage you to make sure that your belly button is rotating with the hands. So as if I had a flashlight right stuck in my belly button, and the light is pushing straight ahead, brilliantly shining on my hands, and as the flashlight moves across, I want to make sure my hands stay in that light. Well, that's rotating, but we could try and work the body in regards to anti-rotation. And this is where I might take that rubber band in both hands, and I'm just going to reach straight out and pull back in. Of course, the rubber band is trying to pull me in that direction, so the muscles in my legs, hips, thighs, midsection are having to engage, for that matter, all the way through my arms as well, to keep me from being pulled in that direction. And you can do it on both sides. Just have your feet about hip or shoulder width apart. And know that as you do this motion, having your feet in different positions will also increase or decrease the intensity. For instance, if I have a very wide stance and I'm very stable, that's not going to provide a lot of demand on those muscles that we just spoke of. Compared to having my feet really close, now everything's woken up. And of course, if you really want to get into it, we could go with a single leg stance, maybe with the toe down to start off with, or eventually get that foot off the ground and start doing it with a single leg stance, provided your balance is feeling good. So there are some different kind of band movements that you can continually kind of work on throughout the week, as well as the lunge matrix, which is a fall prevention technique to help you understand where your body goes through space to control it and to bring you back to a safe place. Okay, let's move on to a little bit of floor work. Now, what you might want to do is keep a chair nearby, because I think one of the most basic yet important actions that we can do, no matter what our age is the ability to get down on the ground and get back up again. And we see it from early on. It's one of the first things that we develop as children is the ability to feel what it's like to be on the floor, to flip over and to crawl and to creep. And then eventually we get somewhere where we're trying to now feel what it's like to balance on 2 feet. And then you'll see grandchildren, infants just kind of coming up and checking things out and then dropping back down and so on. Somewhere along the way we kind of misplaced these actions. So it's something that we want to create a little reunion with. What I'd like to do is, having this chair here, just use it as a prop if you need to bring yourself down to the ground. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my hands as much as I need to lay on down. Once I'm down on the floor, I'm going to figure out the most efficient way for me to get off the ground. One that's not going to put a lot of work into my lower back. So for me to do that, I think the best way would be to flip to my side, push off the ground with one arm while the other one helps with the chair. And that way, I didn't try doing a sit-up, which is going to put a lot of strain on that lumbar region of the lower back. So I'm not trying to thrust myself off. I rolled or flipped to my side, pressed on up, and then from here, I'm going to prop my knee underneath me. Then I can bring myself more upright, and from this point, I can use the chair, my hand on my thigh, and that forward leg to bring myself back up. We're just going to repeat this process only in the opposite direction. So the foot that's closest to the chair right now is going to step back, and gently I'm going to use my hands to help lower me down to that knee. From there, I'm going to switch hands, so my right hand's on the seat, my left hand reaches down on the floor, and I'm just going to bring my hip down to the ground. From here, I'm just going to lower myself onto my elbow, down onto my side, and lay all the way onto my back. We're going to repeat this a few more times, flipping to my side, holding onto the chair while pushing up off to my shoulder and my elbow, getting my knee underneath me, switching hands to the seat, and coming on up again. If that is simple and you're thinking, I do that all the time, great. Let's take it up a notch. Let us use only one hand. I'm not going to use this hand right now. I'm going to step back with my left knee down on the ground, my left hand helping here, but now I'm not going to use the chair anymore. I'm just going to use my left arm to help support me, lower myself down onto my hip, down onto my left side, and roll on down. Same thing. Now I'm not using my right hand. In fact, I'll just keep it right on my shoulder to remind me that this is not going to be helpful. And then bring myself back on up. Now I've done that enough times on that side. Let's see what it's like on this side. Leg closest to the chair, lowering down. Switching hands. Bringing my hand to the floor and shifting downward. Laying down onto my right side now and all the way down. Rotating back over, hand on the seat, other hand on the floor. Prop me up to get my knee underneath me, switching hands and pushing up from there. If we can break these movements down into components, then they can be their own exercise. For instance, right here, I can just get used to doing this maybe 2 or 3 times every time I challenge myself. Or this position here is going to use all the muscles through my midsection. Not to mention this position here, just getting my knee to get underneath me back and forth is going to really put a lot of work on that shoulder that's supporting me. And of course, this component of laying down and rolling to my side, flipping off to one side, is really going to target a lot of the muscles through my midsection. Well, that's pretty good. If you're finding that that chair is getting in your way of progress, well, just take it away. How do we do this without support? Well, in a very similar fashion. I'm going to step back gently. I could take both hands onto this thigh. Then from here, I'm just going to reach down. I'm going to get down onto my hip and lay down onto my side until I'm fully all the way on my back. Getting up from here, onto my knee, and standing on up. Now, we don't have to use dumbbells right now to hold on to. Just the mechanics of getting up and down off the floor is really quite nice. And if you're feeling a little concerned with these movements, then this might be something to practice. Obviously, in a safe environment, you could simply start off by getting in and out of your bed, flipping to your side, sitting on up, taking a step around to the other side of the bed, sitting down, and flipping back into the covers. And then from there, we might go to the couch. And from the couch, we might go down to the floor. So you're taking the elevation and going in a progressive manner, more and more challenging by going lower and lower. Brilliant. So let's get the blood pumping a little bit. I've got a timer nearby, and I'm going to put it on a little bit of a kind of an interval. It'll be 20 seconds of work followed by 10-second rest. If you have a band with you, Fantastic, because I'm going to use my band. If you don't have a band, just go along with the arm action and let's see what that's like. So we're going to start off with a little 10-second countdown. And we'll begin by using the chair to stand and sit. Get ready. And here we go. We're just going to sit down, stand up. Let's wake up those legs. Up and down you go. It's only for 20 seconds, and you can go with whatever pace you want. So if you want to do, 3 in 20 seconds, that's fantastic. If you want to try for 10 or 15, how many can you do in that 20-second time period? Let those muscles warm up. Beautiful. Okay, we'll get to the back of the chair now, and I'm going to step to my right and to my left, just like doing those lateral lunges from earlier. Here we go. To one side, to the other. And I'm going to move my body a little bit quicker than I was before because this is going to work me a little bit more. Now that I'm all warmed up and I've got my good coordination going with me, can I go right and left? Can you move quickly? When was the last time you moved really quick? Beautiful. Now I'm going to go over to the rubber band and I'm just going to pull in an alternating fashion. Here we go. And you'll see I'm not going slow. I'm going to try and get my heart rate up a little bit. I'm not going to use a tremendous amount of resistance, not a lot of weight, but I am going to get a lot of my body moving at a time. So I've got my torso rotating, my arms going back and forth, and I'm just moving it. Beautiful. Let's take it just the opposite direction. We're going to do a little bit of punching. Whichever leg you would like forward is your choice. Here we go. And you're just going to move those arms forward and backwards. If you want to, you can switch legs. Or you can even march in place to get even more of your body moving. Let's do one more movement with the rubber band. We're going to trace the letters of the alphabet as if there's a blackboard right in front of you. A, B. Now you can go with uppercase or lowercase. I do find there's a difference, not just in the lettering, but uppercase is much more linear angles, whereas cursive or lowercase is a lot more circular in motion. Here's the tricky one. I'm going to face the opposite side, and I'm going to start with the letter Z and go backwards. See if you can get that brain going. Here we go. I got to H, not bad. All right. Let's go back to the chair here. And this time, when you sit down and stand up, you're going to raise your arms overhead. Here we go. Up, down, up, down, up, down. Reach. Every time, reach. Let the whole body start moving. Now, we're only doing this for 8 rounds. I say only. It could be a lot for everybody. But 8 rounds, 20 seconds at a time, that's 4 minutes. Well, this time, we're just going to do musical chairs. We're going to do some marching right around the chair. This is our last one. Just getting the knees up, arms moving. Can you stay upright with your posture? Going right around the chair. You can go face straight ahead, so you're going backwards, or you can just turn around continually in one direction. Your choice. Well, there we go. Very nice. We got the body moving. 4 minutes of getting the blood warmed up and flowing through the body. Things should be feeling a little bit different. Hopefully not to the point where you're ready to call the doctor or the attorney, get my name, I'm not sure which. No, honestly, it should be feeling like, oh, my body temperature has increased. I'm feeling a whole bunch of movement through my body. My muscles are awake, and I'm a little bit more alert. In fact, I'm feeling better than when we began. So we use the rolling pin all along the muscles of the legs and the midsection and hips. We went into that RAPS test to figure out which side was less coordinated, which one had less accuracy or endurance. And then we worked on that side to improve it. So we did a little brain training in that regard. We did some balance work by doing the roadside test, heel to toe, arms out, touch the nose if you want to. Take your eyes in a direction and find out where the eyes feel most challenged when walking heel to toe. Then we did the lunge matrix with the tape on the floor going forward and backwards, side to side, diagonals forward, diagonals back. From there, we explored different kinds of movements that you could do with the rubber band. We did a little bit of an exercise about just simply getting up and down off the ground, which I think honestly is one of my most favorite exercises. And we just finished with this interval training of squats and stepping and band work and a whole bunch of other things. So now it's just time to kind of do a little bit of cool down. So we're back in the chair, and all I'd like you to do is just feel those shoulders. What is it like to make gigantic circles? Not in a strenuous way, but just more of an exploration. Can you get that movement to go around? Of course, there may be popping and crunching and all these other sound effects that occur. That's just a wonderful way of saying you've lived a wonderful life and your body's letting you know. So, listen to the music. That's all that is. Okay. Then from there, just take one arm, lean to your side a little bit and reach on up. Can you get those muscles to open up here? Do the same thing to the opposite side. Just open. Because those muscles that you're feeling opening up, they are supposed to open up every time you take a breath in. But think about that. These little muscles could be acting like boa constrictors, not allowing you to take beautiful, deep, full breaths, but remaining contracted, so you have to work harder, putting more strain on your heart to have to pump more blood because you're not getting in these beautiful deep breaths. Simple things like this have a way of a wonderful trickle-down effect to your whole system. The last one I think I'll finish with is let's just pay attention to the ankle. And just like the shoulder circles, we want to make circles with the ankle itself. And what is that like to make those circular motions? Is there an area where there's some restriction? Or is this just beautiful, creamy, almost like warm butter right there? What is that like? Switch over to the other side. I don't think we give enough credit to our feet and to our ankles in regards to the role they play in our lives. We cover them in shoes and socks. In fact, if we were on the Family Feud and they asked a question, what is the most favorite part of the body? No one would say feet. They just got a bum rap in life, but they're the most amazing things. They're the only part of our body that touches the ground on a regular basis. They've got more than 25% of the bones in our body are hidden in these shoes. And there's about 100 muscles, tendons, ligaments that come down and attach to those things. They really have a great deal of importance in our life. So consider them a little differently in the future. There we have it. This was Senior Fitness. Hopefully you can pass this class on. We do keep it online. It is posted in our videos section. So on the left-hand side of the page, down on Facebook, you'll see where it says videos, and you can look in there and see other weeks, because this is now week 8. So that must mean we have at least 8 classes. We also have them posted on YouTube, so you can go to Rocky Snyder, CSCS, and subscribe to our channel so that when we post these classes, you'll get a little email alert letting you know that they are there. We also, for the younger crowd, have kids classes every Thursday afternoon at 4 o'clock on Facebook Live as well. We also post those later too. So if you've got little ones around the house that need to get moving and they've been doing too many video games and they've been sitting too long, well, give them a little bit of this. This is one video that won't be too bad, and it's game oriented, so they'll have a lot of fun. I hope you had a lot of fun, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Take care.